Governor of Virginia Glenn Youngkin has just done 48 more vetoes in the last week. 48 bills passed by the legislature, vetoed in one big pass. And that's just a fraction of all the vetoes he's done in this legislative session. 201 total, setting a new record for a modern Virginia governor. And I'm sure there's a mix of all sorts of bills in that, but some of them would have been nice and popular. I mean, they did, after all, pass the legislature, except now they won't be law. The first has to do with access to birth control. So bills in the state house and senate chambers state that, quote, a person shall have the right to obtain contraceptives and to engage in contraception, and that the right, quote, shall not be infringed upon by any law, regulation, or policy that expressly or effectively limits, delays, or impedes access to contraceptives or information related to contraception. That seems eminently reasonable, but not to Glenn Youngkin because he vetoed it. And then he put out this statement as a result. He said, I support access to contraception, apparently just not legal protections for that right. However, we cannot trample on the religious freedoms of Virginians. And that is the issue the recommendations I sent back to the General Assembly addressed. I will continue to uphold the oath that I swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia. None of that last bit having anything to do with the fact that he bowed down to fringe religious considerations to say that no, your right to birth control shall not be protected, and maybe in a few years the legislature decides to ban that. As I have always said, I think that your religion can perhaps limit you from doing things. It should never, under any circumstances, limit me from doing things because I'm not a part of it. Okay, that's not how it works. And I would say that all of the people that he is implicitly referencing there, Christians, generally right-wing Christians, would not like to be bound by the strictures of other religions other than Christianity. If suddenly Sharia law were to come to Virginia, I don't think they'd want to be bound by that. And so maybe we just leave religion entirely out of the whole thing and give people control over what happens to their own body. That's the crazy thing, I believe. Danielle, what do you think?
What a novel concept to let people decide for themselves how they want to live their lives and what they want to put into their bodies and whether or not they choose to become parents. I think that Glenn Youngkin, first of all, I don't think that he is bowing to the religious right wing. It's who he is, right? It is what, sure. It is what Virginia decided to elect under this guise of parental choice when he decided to get into the culture wars and talk about critical race theory. That's why Glenn Youngkin is the governor of Virginia. And so, here it is. You have another legislature that is trying to pass legislation to make sure that women have bodily autonomy, to make sure, that children have books that they want to read, and Glenn Youngkin is there to veto it. So unless they can override his veto, that's what Virginia is going to get until they can remove him.
Yeah, 100%. And like, it's so weird living in a democracy where I'm sure you could find all the polling of what people in Virginia think, and they'd be wildly in support of this. And they actually got a legislature that also reflects that, which is not always a given. The fact that something is overwhelmingly popular does not mean that you'll have a legislature that agrees with it. But they had both of those things, but had a conservative Christian guy. So I guess you don't have rights. Maybe you gotta get pregnant, Sucks that that's the way our system actually works. By the way, it wasn't just the birth control. He vetoed a series of bills shielding abortion providers from extradition to other states where abortion is illegal. Like, no, I want you to stop because we have others, but stop and think about that. They're going to extradite doctors from that state to other places that are even crazier than Virginia. That's an exciting development in American politics. A ban on assault weapons, two bills that would have stripped tax exemptions for the United Daughters of the Confederacy, an organization that has opposed the removal of Confederate statues. Any hope of having a legal retail weed market. The fact that a majority of Republicans support legal weed, utterly irrelevant to Glenn Youngkin. The fact that 69% percent of Americans support it, also utterly irrelevant. It doesn't matter what you people think. What, do you live in a democracy? And by the way, bills to raise the minimum wage also were vetoed. Just another nice instance of right-wing populism, where you vote for a right winger, so someday you won't make any more money. But people keep doing it, and I have a feeling he will suffer no long-term consequences as a result of this. Any final thought before we move on to our final story?
Virginia is not for lovers.
It's for whatever the hell this is. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?